All right, let's start with question 3. It says the curve C has equation this, where x is not equals half and a is a constant. We can see a is unknown over here. The asymptote to C, that means this equation, that is parallel to the x-axis. The asymptote of this equation, which is parallel to x-axis, has equation y equals 4. So the equation, the answer is already given. Answer for the asymptote is already, equation for the asymptote, which is parallel to the x-axis, is already given. Find the value of a. So you need to find the unknown over here. Now, what is the format of finding the asymptote? So first of all, asymptote is such a line where the graph will never cross the graph will never cross. So we can see the parallel to x-axis means they're talking about parallel to a line which is something like this, parallel to x-axis. Okay. To find the equation of asymptote that is parallel to x-axis, we have to use only the coefficient of x. So from here we can see the coefficient of x is a and minus 2. And as the equation, the answer is already given. So we just have to substitute y as 4 from here. So we will use the coefficient of x, only the coefficient of x on numerator, from the numerator we can see it's a. The coefficient of x from the denominator is minus 2. So a over 2 will be equals to 4 from here. From here, if we find the value of a, we are going to get a equals 4 times minus 2 is minus 8. So we have found the equation for the asymptote. I mean, we found the answer of a, which is the unknown, to be minus 8. Let's move to the next question. So it should be minus 8. So the next question says, write down the equation of the asymptote to C that is parallel to the y-axis. Now, to find the asymptote of C that is parallel to y-axis, we have to use only the denominator. Okay, now it says parallel to y-axis. That means the asymptote line should be something like this. So the rule is we have to use the denominator 1 minus twice x and put a 0 equals 0. From here, if we substitute the value of subject the value of x, you can find the value. The equation for that line should be x equals half. So you can see it's x equals half. Okay, so we now know the equation for the asymptote, which is parallel to the x-axis, that is y equals 4, and for the y-axis it's x equals half. We will need all of these equations later on to sketch the graph finally. Now the next question says, to find the coordinates of the point where the C crosses the x-axis, we have to put y as 0, because at x-axis y is always 0, and at y-axis x is always 0. Now, as they are talking about x-axis, so we have to put y as 0. So when we put y as 0 over here, so if we put y as 0, 0 minus 8x plus 3 over 1 minus twice x. So if I transfer this 1 minus twice x to the other side, it will become 0. So we are left with minus 8x plus 3 equals 0. So minus 8x equals minus 3, x equals 3 over 8. So we can see we have found the coordinates of x coordinate, and that is minus 3 over 8, and the y coordinate is 0. Now, what's the next one? The next one says y-axis, the coordinate for the y-axis. Now, you already know to find the coordinates of y-axis, we have to put x as 0. Now, when we put x as 0 from here, you can see that if we put x as 0, we will only be left with 3 and 1 here. So we can say finally the value of y will be only 3 and the x coordinate will be 0 from here. So now we have the coordinates for x-axis and the coordinates for y-axis. Let's move to the final question, where it says, using the axis below, sketch C showing clearly the asymptotes and the coordinates of the points where the curve where C crosses the coordinate axis. Now we have all the points, all the informations required to draw this, to sketch this graph. We have the asymptote, the equation for the asymptote that is parallel to the x-axis, and that is y equals 4. So from 4, we have to draw the line which is parallel to the x-axis. Now we also have the asymptote of the line that is parallel to y-axis, and that is x equals half. So this one should be half, x equals half. Now the coordinate that where the c crosses the x-axis is 8, 3, 8 and 0. We already have that. We found it from the previous answer. So it should be 3/8, this point. And the last point is y, which is 0 and 3. So that's the final point. Now we know to draw this fractional graph, we have to maintain the asymptote line first. And from the asymptote line, we have to draw the graph like this. So over here, the asymptote line is the red line. So maintaining that asymptote line, we can draw the graph, which will be something like this. Okay, so make sure you never cross the asymptote line and you draw a very smooth line. So the line will be something like this, you see, from 4, and it should cut from 3, and this one should be 3/8, this one should be half. Okay, you should be drawing a graph something like this. Thanks a lot, everyone.